Hello and welcome to my course on digital marketing and behavioral science. Are you looking for ways to make your customers act now? Then you're in the right place. I'm Venceslav Hikov, Chief Strategy Officer at BBDO, the most awarded creative agency network in the world. Over the last 25 years, I have had the privilege of working with some of the most powerful brands in the world, including Heineken, Land Rover, Pepsi, Samsung, Shell, Snickers, Volvo, Unicredit, and many others. In this course, I will be sharing with you some of the tools these brands use to activate their customers. Studying behavioral science should come with a warning. It's great for activation, for making people buy, download content, share, or do whatever you define as conversion. But if your task is to build long-term brand equity, behavioral science won't be of much help. However, behavioral science is really instrumental in uncovering what shapes your customers' behavior, what makes them tick. It took me 1 year to prepare this course, and all the tools have been field tested by some of the best brands out there, so you can immediately apply them to your marketing programs. By the end of this course, you will have a set of thinking principles designed to answer one simple question: how to make your customers act now. Based on feedback from my students, I have added step-by-step guides that show you how to apply the principles of behavioral science to your digital marketing campaigns. These are available as downloadable resources for each lecture. Don't forget to check out the practice assignments and quizzes. They're fun and will help you test your knowledge. So, if you're ready to take your digital marketing skills to the next level, sign up for this course now. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I can't wait to see what you will achieve. In the early 2000s, Houston Airport received a large number of complaints. The majority of them were to do with an 8-minute wait for luggage at the carousel. In response, the airport approved a large budget to solve the problem. Like most businesses, they opted for an engineering approach. They invested in more machinery and baggage handlers to reduce waiting times. At first, the money looked well spent as waiting times dropped to 7 minutes, about an average for an airport. But complaints remained high. The airport considered hiring more baggage handlers, but that was too expensive. One fact they had discovered earlier became key. It only took about a minute to walk to the carousel, but then they spent 7 minutes waiting. The airport decided to reverse that by rerouting passengers after passport control, so they had to walk further. This meant they spent about 7 minutes walking to the carousel and then just 1 minute waiting for their luggage. Even though the time between leaving the plane and collecting their bags was exactly the same, complaints fell dramatically. What the airport had discovered is that what matters is not objective reality, but our interpretation of it. An unoccupied wait feels far longer than an occupied one. This experience at Houston Airport shows that applying a psychological solution can help solve business problems at a far cheaper rate than an engineering solution. Small changes can have large effects. So, what is behavioral economics? It is the study of why people do what they do. It is the study of human decision making. At the heart of behavioral economics is the idea that consumers are overwhelmed with decisions. We have too many decisions to weigh up fully logically, fully rationally. So what we do instead is we rely on shortcuts, or what behavioral economics calls heuristics. These are rules of thumb for quicker decision making. The interesting thing about heuristics is that they're often prone to biases. And if you are aware of those biases as a marketer, you can make sure that your communication works with human nature, not against it. If you try to understand how consumers are affected by biases, you can't just ask them. Consumers are not very good at explaining what their intrinsic motivation is. As psychologist Timothy Wilson says, we're strangers to ourselves. We're pretty good at coming up with plausible post-rationalization of our behavior, but most often these are not the real reasons for our choices as consumers and people. Through the course, we will discuss the most important, most powerful and relevant biases for marketing and communication. We will understand how we can make our brands effortless, how we can simplify our communication. We shall see that certain decisions are based on given context, and by changing the context, you can change the decision. Understanding biases and heuristics and applying them properly will dramatically enhance the effectiveness of your marketing and communication campaigns. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. Traditional economic theory assumes that human beings make rational decisions that factor in the overall costs and benefits of every choice we make in life. In reality, this is not the case. Over the years, there have been many theories about how our brains actually function. In the last decade, the Nobel Prize winner, Professor Daniel Kahneman, has developed one of the most recognized and easy to understand theories of human decision-making. According to Daniel Kahneman, we have two distinct ways in which we process information. These two cognitive processes have been labeled System 1 and System 2. System 1 produces the fast, intuitive reactions and instantaneous decisions that govern most of our lives. System 2 uses the deliberate type of thinking involved in focus, deliberation, reasoning or analysis, such as calculating a complex math problem, exercising self-control, or performing a demanding physical task. System 1 is effortless, automatic. System 2 is effortful, deliberate. System 1 is fast, System 2 is slow. System 1 accounts for the bigger part of our decision-making and behavior. System 2 most often only post-rationalizes our choices and behavior. System 1 is the Oval Office, System 2 is the press office. While most decision-making is done by System 1, most of the marketing and advertising efforts target System 2 based on the assumption that we as consumers take decisions rationally, which most often is simply wrong. So, how does behavioral economics relate to digital marketing? A messy process of online shopping behavior resembles the relationship between a rider and an elephant. The rider is our rational side. The elephant is our predictably irrational, often subconscious side that is responsible for the majority of purchase decisions we make online. It's a famous analogy used to describe how reason and emotion interact when we're making decisions online. The rider is notionally in charge of where the pair is going, but as soon as some stimulus or other catches the elephant's attention, the rider quickly finds out how little control they really have. It often occurs that we go online with the intent to buy something specific, but somehow we end up considering options we did not even contemplate 5 minutes ago. If somebody asks you to explain what happened, you will be able to tell where you wanted to go, but not why you ended up where you did. We're all overwhelmed by so much choice online, so many shops to visit and products to view, so much complexity that we have turned to a range of coping mechanisms, mental shortcuts and techniques that help us cut through to what matters. We shall elaborate on those during the current course. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. Most of us don't like to think that other people affect our decision making. The truth is, our automatic brains are constantly amending our behaviors according to what we think others are doing. This is called informational social influence, also known as social proof. Millions of years ago, back on the grasslands of Africa, those of us who survived probably did so because when we saw lots of things running in the opposite direction, we turned and followed them. Especially when uncertain, we people look to the actions of others. Herd mentality and conforming to group norms is generally a very positive thing for our survival. Imagine you're out on a walk and you see across the street a store about to put up a new product on the shelf. And outside the closed doors of the store there is a long line of people waiting for the doors to open so they can be the first to get their hands on the new release. You think the product must be good, else why would that many people spend hours on a line just to buy it? This simple scenario shows the use of social proof. You notice other people engaging with a popular product and right away the product became attractive. You don't need a sales agent to tell you how good the product is. You just saw popular opinion and assume so. Research reveals that showcasing positive social proof is more powerful than trying to persuade people to take any action, like making a purchase with the promise that they will be making a responsible decision, protecting the environment, or saving money. There are different sources of social proof. These could be roughly grouped into 5 categories: expert social proof, celebrity social proof, user social proof, wisdom of crowds, and peer social proof. Expert social proof most often comes in the form of approval from credible expert in the relevant field. When we buy something that we are unfamiliar with, we often defer to an expert opinion. Expert social proof is particularly effective in high involvement, high complexity categories such as medical products, cars, mortgage loans or investment, pet care products or computers. Expert social proof usually comes in the form of statements from accredited experts or testimonials, certifications, awards, recognitions, and recommendations that prove you know what you're doing. These can come in the form of social media posts and statements from experts that endorse your business or products. Expert opinions are valuable for winning over skeptical users and establishing authority in a particular space, whereas other types of social proof can drive traffic and increase sales. Expert social proof is more about user trust and does not directly affect search engine optimization results. Celebrity social proof is essentially approval or endorsements from celebrities, both paid or unpaid. There are 2 obvious reasons to use those. A number of studies shows that consumers recall better products that have been endorsed by celebrities, regardless of whether they are actual fans or not. The human brain recognizes celebrities similarly to how it recognizes people we actually know. Subconsciously, people believe that purchasing a product that's promoted by a celebrity they admire will allow them to emulate the celebrity's desired traits. Users' social proof is approval from current or past users. Probably the most effective type of social proof, the golden standard. Giving people evidence that other shoppers have already had a positive experience with the brand, product, or service is extremely persuasive. Most often it comes in the forms of user ratings, comments, reviews, testimonials and recommendations. Wisdom of crowds is approval from large groups of other people. People who bought this also bought that. Simple and effective. A large chunk of Amazon's revenue comes from products and offers featured in that way. Peer social proof is approval from friends and people you know. We know that customers trust recommendations from people they know much more than they trust those of strangers. Will one form of social proof work best for your brand? Or maybe it's a specific mixture of various types that is most effective. The beauty of digital marketing is you can test, learn, and iterate quickly to find out what works best for you. So, let's sum up. The science is telling us that instead of relying on our own ability to persuade others, we can point to what many others are already doing, especially many similar others. There is a helpful resource for you to complement this lecture on social proof. It's called Social Proof Implementation Tips, and it's available for download. You can use it to get even more insights on how to apply the principles of social proof in your digital marketing efforts. Please, don't forget to check out the Social Proof Scavenger Hunt assignment. It's a fun activity that will help you practice identifying different types of social proof used in digital marketing. So, go ahead, download the tips, and get started on the scavenger hunt. It's a great way to level up your social proof game. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. People value things more highly when they believe that they're scarce or rare. When there is a limited or scarce resource and high demand, people are willing to pay excessive amounts for the product or service. Behavioral scientists call that scarcity. We want what is in short supply. Our ancestors, who immediately capitalized on scarce resources such as food before it disappeared, were likely to be more successful. One of the most well-known scarcity studies was conducted by Stephen Warhol in 1975. He and his colleagues offered subjects cookies in a jar. One jar had 10 cookies and the other jar had 2. Subject preferred the cookies from the jar with 2 in it. Even though the cookies in both jars were identical, the cookies in scarce supply were rated as much tastier, and the students were prepared to pay 11% more for them. The scarcity principle, when done right, is incredibly powerful in marketing, persuasion, and conversion optimization. Scarcity is heavily predicated on the idea that others desire the product or service, and in order to get the goods, you've got to act fast. So it creates a sense of urgency and immediate effect. There are generally 2 types of scarcity we can use to increase sales. Quantity-related scarcity, for example, 2 seats left at this price. Time-related scarcity. Black Friday is probably the most popular application of time-related scarcity in marketing. Sales limited to a single day. As these approaches are low risk and easy to manage, they are frequently used in offline and online activations. Let's explore some examples of the scarcity principle used in digital marketing. Only X left. Most people have experienced the situation where a hotel they're considering suddenly becomes fully booked, just because they waited for a couple of days. A popular tactic used by travel sites such as Booking.com is to display how many rooms there are left for some hotels, so customers will have to hurry. To play up the scarcity game, they also indicate how many people are currently viewing the same hotel, so that customers will have to act even faster. Invite only. Spotify used invite only to manage the influx of free new users and encourage paid subscriptions. Spotify was hugely popular in Europe and its release in the US was highly anticipated. But instead of opening the floodgates to let the public in, they chose to open their free service through invite only. Users could either wait for an invite or pay for unlimited or premium. It worked because their arrival was highly anticipated and they were better than their competitors. People had to wait in order to be the first to try out the best music streaming service around. For those who didn't want to wait, they could always opt for a paid subscription. Exclusivity. The 11K Club is a mysterious club with only 11,000 slots and one exceptional benefit. But apart from that, no one knows what the club is for or what the benefit is. The only way to know it is to join it. With no information to consider, the 11K Club was a social experiment on how alluring exclusivity could be. Co-founder Steve Wiley said, "I'm trying to see if people will sign up to a club they know nothing about purely because it's exclusive and because they fear they'll miss out." And indeed they did, for the 11K Club received way more than 11,000 applications. It is perhaps the best proof that exclusivity and curiosity go hand in hand, and to great effect. Out of stock. When selecting designs, sizes and cut of the apparel you want, Ministry of Supply indicates which sizes are currently out of stock. This plays nicely with the principle of social proof. A lot of people have bought this particular design, so it must be the best. Daily deals. Amazon uses this tactic perfectly. Not only do they have deals every day, they even have countdown timer below each offer that indicates how much more time customers have to grab it. Holiday specials. We love it when Christmas is here because then we'll be able to get our hands on the peppermint flavored ice blended drink from Starbucks. It happens only once a year, so we make it a point to enjoy it whenever we pass by an outlet. We probably wouldn't care that much if it were sold all year round. Limited edition. Companies often make use of limited edition products to drive sales, even though they differ only marginally from the regular product, and therefore could be easily produced in the same abundance. Research has shown that the term limited edition can increase profits as it prompts people to try a new brand or product that otherwise they might have not considered. A wonderful recent example of limited edition that you might have heard of has been for Nike's self-tying shoes. Many people have dreamed of these being a reality since they were first worn by Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future Part 2. In 2016, Nike created a limited edition range, and demand has been so high that Nike made it mandatory that you are a member of Nike Plus community in order to buy a pair. Collaborations. Since 2004, H&M made it a habit of working with some of the biggest names in the fashion world, from Karl Lagerfeld to Moschino. The good thing about collaborations is that not only you can tap on the knowledge, expertise and resources from both sides, the resulting spark is something that will forever be special and one of a kind. Nobody knows whether they will collaborate again in the future, so fans will have to buy them before they are sold out. So, let's sum up. We're always drawn to things that are exclusive and hard to come by. Scarcity works so effectively because we have evolved to assume that things that are difficult to obtain are usually better than those that are easily available. We link availability to quality. In addition, we tend to attach more value to things that other people are competing for, a phenomenon that is part of social proof. Scarcity can be presented in mainly two ways. Quantity-related scarcity, only X left, invite only, exclusivity, and out of stock, time-related scarcity, daily deals, holiday specials, limited edition, and collaborations. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. A commitment device is when you lock yourself into a course of action that you might not have chosen otherwise. For example, when people make a commitment to something, however big or small, and especially when they commit to something publicly, it alters how they think they should behave, and they subsequently strive to act in accordance. People like to be consistent with what they have said or done previously. Consistency is activated by looking for small initial commitments that can be made. One study reported a reduction of missed appointments at health centers by 18% simply by asking patients, rather than the staff, to write down appointment details on the future appointment card. Looking for voluntary, active and public commitments, and ideally get those commitments in writing, is an effective mechanism to activate the commitment device principle. Examples of commitment devices include cutting up credit cards to avoid shopping binges, or leaving work at the office so it cannot be done at home, or not keeping alcohol in the house to prevent consumption. How do you incite desired behavior of people who don't quite know you and trust you yet? Let's explore some options. Foot in the door, a popular technique where a small request paves the way for compliance with larger subsequent requests. Ask your customers to start from small actions so they will have to stick to it. Once customers can be nudged into making seemingly insignificant choices and stands, it paves the way for marketers to offer bigger choices. These bigger offers might be met with lesser resistance precisely because of the first small choice that customers have made. In this pop-up, visitors are given a choice: either get the Conversion Excel guide or be silly and choose the inefficient path. This reverse psychology situation nudges visitors who click yes to see themselves as smart people who know what's good for them. In the future, when Conversion Excel sends them email encouraging them to sign up for the services because it's the smarter choice, these customers might feel like they have to sign up. Of course, it helps a ton that Conversion Excel content is incredibly well researched and full of useful, actionable insights. Public commitments. Commitments made in private are easy to break, but when something that we said is heard by everyone else, there is a strong desire to want to uphold that statement. We do that because we feel an innate social pressure to be consistent, something known as social validation or normative social influence. Getting customers to publicly show support for your brand helps to boost your brand image and provide social proof to potential customers. Tell us why you love my brand type of contests. Running a contest like KFC encourages your potential customers to self-identify as fans of your brand. This creates a valuable opportunity for you to follow up with offers that remind them of their fandom. Ask customers to invest time and effort into your brand. A series of studies have proved that we tend to like things more if we have expended effort to create them, or the so-called IKEA effect. Dunkin' Donuts held a successful Halloween contest which required participants to decorate their cups in any way they liked. The amount of effort put in by some of the participants is amazing. Requiring consumers to invest time and effort into your brand might be a good way to boost their perceptual value. The IKEA effect backfires when you require your customers to put too much time or effort. This essentially will have the opposite effect, in the perceived value of the product or service will go down. So, let's sum up. Encourage customers to make a statement, then persuade them to stand by it. In order to fully utilize the long-lasting power of commitment, make customers commit to a stand and leverage future offers using the statement they have made. Showcase their choices to the public so that now they are accountable to everyone else. Get them to put in appropriate amount of time and effort so they will perceive the end result as more worthwhile. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. The law of least effort. A general law of least effort applies to cognitive as well as physical exertion. The law asserts that if there are several ways of achieving the same goal, people will eventually gravitate to the least demanding course of action. When marketers seek to persuade people, they normally begin by considering how they can increase their audience's motivation to act. Motivation is important, but it's only half the task. Marketers tend to overlook the other half, making the desired behavior as easy as possible. An extreme example demonstrates the significant effect of making behavior change easy or difficult. The graph you see shows the number of suicides by year in the UK, splitting out total suicides, and specifically those from carbon monoxide poisoning. In the 1950s, putting your head in the oven until the carbon monoxide fumes became overwhelming was one of the most common forms of suicide. As you can see though, suicide from this method dropped dramatically from the early 1960s. This was because the gas supply in houses began to be sourced from the North Sea, which happened to have low levels of carbon monoxide. Now, look at the rates of total suicide. It reduces at almost the same rate as those from carbon monoxide. This implies that most of the people who would have killed themselves by putting their head in the oven were put off. By making suicide slightly harder, the number of deaths fell. Think how puzzling this is. Suicide is as serious a decision as you can make, yet even in this situation, small amounts of friction change behavior. If tiny barriers can influence such a serious decision, imagine how they can affect less important decisions we make as consumers. Effort versus reward equation. Pretty simply, if effort is greater than the reward, behavior will not happen. In order to drive behavior, we need to reduce effort and maximize the reward. So, the main principle is make it easy to do the right thing and more difficult to do the wrong thing. Many apps require consumers to evaluate products by swiping them to the right or to the left. 5 studies indicate that when people use swiping movements to evaluate objects, their evaluations are influenced by the object's orientation. When the product is pointing to the right, that is where people swipe, regardless of whether the button is to buy or to cancel. This is known as process influencing. When things feel easy to do, that's what we tend to do. One more example from supermarkets during the pandemic. We have all seen social distancing visual cues. This, of course, has to make it easy for people to do the right thing. You can also make things difficult, especially the things that you don't want people to do. Here is a great example of making it really difficult to leave home during the pandemic. The power of easy concept suggests that you should put effort into simplifying your purchase journey. Can you pre-populate forms or introduce one-click purchase? In the next chapters, we shall look at more concepts and tools that will help you design the choices of consumers you're marketing at and make the desired behavior easy. So, let's sum up. Remember, our instinct as marketers and advertising people is most often to focus on the reward side of the equation. I can't stress enough how effective it often proves to be simply to make things easy to do. As the Nobel Prize winner Richard Thaler puts it, my number one mantra is make it easy. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. First, never underestimate the power of inertia. Second, that power can be harnessed. Because we find thinking cognitively effortful, we often take the path of least resistance, making us much more likely to follow a default option or a previously recommended one. This is relatively insignificant until we grasp that this means other people could be designing our behavior without us realizing. Default options are preset options that take effect if we don't make an active choice. Since humans' default action is often inaction or inertia, changing default options can make a difference to outcomes. Our phones being a key part of our daily lives, you could imagine that each of us has downloaded a ringtone that's unique to our personality, right? Amazingly, this couldn't be further from the truth. Instead, it's much more likely that most of us have never bothered to change our ringtone from the original factory settings. This means that our ringtone is probably the same as most of our colleagues, family members, and even strangers. Even though we have the ability to choose any ringtone imaginable, why is it that we generally decide to go with the one picked by the manufacturer? According to various studies, our actions come down to the fact that humans are creatures of comfort and prefer an easy choice instead of exerting the mental energy to make a different one. Whether it's a ringtone or choosing a drink accompanying our meal, many of us routinely decide to stick with the default option. In marketing, this behavior is known as the default bias. The most cited example of the impact of defaults is in the area of organ donation rates. In countries where citizens are automatically opted into organ donation program, most people are organ donors. But in those countries where people are asked to opt in to organ donations, fewer people join. For example, in France, an opt-out country, 99.9% of people are organ donors. In Germany, where people must actively opt in to donate, only 12% of people are organ donors. There are two general conditions under which a change of default is effective. Effort. Inertia is particularly strong if taking action requires effort, as often the case with investment paperwork. Automatic enrollment for retirement saving plans takes advantage of this problem. Unless people opt out, they will be enrolled. Uncertainty. People may be unsure about their own preferences and what is expected of them as when they consider organ donation. It's usually perceived a very personal choice. Out approach signals that the social norm is to donate your organs. So, default changing approaches are effective to drive behavior when making an active choice requires a certain level of effort or involves uncertainty. There are 6 types of defaults to consider when designing your customer experience. Mass defaults. Mass defaults apply to all customers without customizing for individual features or preferences. A common example would be an online checkout process that auto-selects 2 days shipping for every customer. This might be a more expensive option for the customer, but it's pre-selected because the company knows most people won't change it. Benign defaults. Benign defaults are a brand's best guess about what the customer wants. Amazon utilizes default options for certain products by setting up a subscribe and save model as the default. The model offers customers a discount for monthly recurring purchases. Hidden options. In this case, the default is presented as the only choice, even though there are alternatives. These hidden options are available, but often hard to find. Smart defaults. These defaults are based on customer data, either at a personal level or as a part of a customer segment. For example, if you filled out a profile for an investment site and the system knows that you're a 22-year-old who makes $25,000 a year, in this case, they can present you with a different set of default options than a 55-year-old partner in a law firm making six figures. Persistent defaults. Persistent defaults use a customer's past choices to dictate their future defaults. For example, if you always choose a window seat on an airplane, the airline might automatically assign you a window seat for your next flight. Adaptive defaults. Adaptive defaults update themselves in real time, acting as advisors to help people find a perfect set of features. For example, when you're shopping for a car, online users could be asked if they would like a sports, comfort, or economy associated option. As the customer chooses options, the rest of the options change based on the information they're sharing in real time. So, let's sum up. Default options are preset options that take effect if we don't make an active choice. There are 6 types of defaults: mass defaults, benign defaults, hidden options, smart defaults, persistent defaults, and adaptive defaults. The default effect is one of the most powerful principles in behavioral science. We have to be thoughtful about what default choices we include. Set the default options to the path you want users to take. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. You may not have heard of the Goldilocks effect, but chances are your buying decisions have been sculpted by it many times. A staple technique within marketing, it simply involves presenting users with multiple choices, with the intention of priming them for the ideal middle option. As you may have guessed, the terminology comes from the Brothers Grimm story of the three bears, where Goldilocks, confronted by 3 bowls of porridge, chooses the one which is not too hot, not too cold, but just right. This principle works largely because we assume the middle option is the average option, the one that most other people would choose. The behavioral insights agency, Mountain View, set up a bar. At first, they offered just 2 beers, Carling and Budvar. 2/3 of the drinkers chose Budvar and only 1/3 chose Carling. They then offered a third beer, a cheap supermarket one, Tesco Value. Even though no one drank this new option, Carling, which was now the mid-price beer, became the most popular. Next, they replaced the Tesco Value beer with the most expensive beer, Kronenbourg Blanc. Now Carling was the cheapest beer. Budvar, now the mid-priced beer, became the favorite. This experiment shows that the relative popularity of Carling and Budvar changed depending on what else was on offer. Have you ever noticed when buying software or subscription-based services that you're often given the choice of bronze, silver, or gold package? You may have assumed that this company would prefer you to buy their full-priced premium platinum package. In fact, they're actually priming you for the gold package. This method is incredibly effective, and the vast majority of users will go for the middle gold type option. The reason is that it plays on a natural psychological impulse, namely the desire to avoid extremes. In a typical person's thought process, they see the platinum option as too expensive and excessive, a luxury that would be nice to have but not necessary. In contrast, they perceive the standard silver option as risky. The cheaper pricing and description suggests that the quality might be suspect. User experience and design are often utilized to enhance the Goldilocks principle. This is done by making the middle option appear more prominent, making sure the user cannot miss it. This could be achieved by designating the middle option a different color, varying its font, or simply just making it appear bigger. Although in the story Goldilocks is confronted by three options, the pricing patterns do not necessarily have to be limited in this way. However, it makes sense to limit the options to lessen the chance of overwhelming the customer, while also providing enough choice for the technique to work. However, there is a danger that customers will be overwhelmed by choice. Although this example arguably provides too much choice, visually it deals with it nicely by highlighting the preferred options. Sites like Basecamp do this beautifully. The choices are kept to a minimum, the preferred option is given prominence, and it's also highlighted as the most popular or best value. So, let's sum up. Overall, the Goldilocks effect is a holy grail for digital marketing, being easy to implement, extremely subtle, and on the whole producing compelling results. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. Let's start with a good example of choice architecture from Starbucks. What you see is a Starbucks rubbish bin that contains two choices in the form of holes, icons, and text. One labeled landfill, the other recycle. Usually there is just a bin or separate bins, but here you have to make one out of two choices, and there does seem to be an implicit right and wrong thing to do, causing people to think about what they're doing and increasing the possibility of people making the right choice. The concept of choice architecture simply implies that the way a choice is presented influences how it is made. Given this, choice options can be designed to influence the way people choose as we would like. A great example of choice architecture is the famous case of Save More Tomorrow pension in the US. What Save More Tomorrow pension does is actually remove the behavioral barriers to taking out a pension with dramatic result. The first piece of choice architecture is to enroll automatically any employee in their company scheme while still allowing people the choice of opting out. When enrollment is the default choice, most people enroll. One company introducing the scheme found that in the 12 months before an automatic enrollment, participation was at 23%. In the 12 months after, this rose to 78%. The second piece of choice architecture is far more subtle and ingenious. One of the things people worry about when they take out a pension is that their take-home pay goes down from that moment by the amount of the deduction. The answer is to make sure people never feel this loss. This way, their take-home pay always goes up, which they like, and the deduction is taken from the money which they never had, which they don't miss. A. The easiest choice of all, default choices. We like to think that people choose the brands we advertise deliberately. In reality, people spend a lot of time avoiding making active choices. Instead, they take the choice that is no choice at all, the default choice. Defaults are not only influential with simple and mundane choices. When faced with complex decisions, whether moral, medical, commercial, social or personal, people are just as likely to look for cues to norms and typical behavior to understand what to do. People, not unfairly, feel that typical choices reflect the collective evaluation of the facts and represent a strength of conclusion they could not reach alone. When faced with difficult trade-offs between price plans or offers, consumers are hugely reassured if there is a guarantee that their option will default to the cheapest one available in the absence of any decision. They do not want to feel that defaults will work to cost them money. People look to them as safety nets. B. Limiting choice. Strange as it may seem, humans hate being faced with endless possibilities. Come to think of it, to settle for one option is to give up the rest. And since the human mind wants it all, it perceives too many choices as a limitation, not as a luxury. This phenomenon is known as the paradox of choice, and it's also true for digital marketing. When a customer is confronted with too much choice, the process of making a decision becomes too difficult, which often leads to a deferral of choice. Limiting choice can increase conversions. C. Extra choices, or the decoy effect. Behavioral economics provides many examples of the impact of extra choice on how people choose. Probably the most celebrated one is that produced by Dan Ariely based on a subscription offer to The Economist. Here is a recap of that experiment. Faced with a two-way choice between a print and online subscription for $125 and an online subscription for $59, 68% of people chose the cheaper offer. However, when a third option was introduced, the outcome changed. The third offer was a print-only subscription for $125. Needless to say, no one chose this offer. Everyone willing to spend $125 wanted to get the now free online subscription. 84% of people chose this option and only 16% chose the online-only subscription. The third choice has the effect of reframing the others for The Economist. This means the total value of subscriptions from 100 subscribers rises from $8,012 to $11,444, an increase of 42%. Consumers are presumably happy with their choices in both scenarios. In the first setup, most people chose to reduce the cost of subscription by altering the media in which they consume it. Getting the lowest price is considered the best option in this scenario. In the second setup, most people pursue value for money, choosing the extra value of having two ways to access the magazine. Getting more value at a higher price is now the best option. So, let's sum up. Choice architecture is the design of the different ways to present choice options. The way choice is presented will influence the final choice made. We have examined three major elements of choice architecture that help apply the concept in practice. Number one, and probably the most effective, the presence of default option. If possible, please make sure that your preferred option is presented as default option. Number two, limiting choice or the paradox of choice. Sometimes we offer too many options and the cognitive effort required to make a decision creates diminishing returns from the consumer. The result is no choice at all. Number three, adding choices or the decoy effect, whereby consumers change their preference between two options when presented with a third, less attractive option to nudge people to the desired targeted option. Please Don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. If you're a fan of tennis, you know all about loss aversion. The first serve is generally hit hard, around 200 km per hour. If it goes out, they get a second chance. Tennis players have nothing to fear. On the second serve, the stakes have changed. If they miss the shot, they lose the point. That is why second serve is considerably slower, approximately 150 km per hour, hit in a much more conservative way. So, this is loss aversion. We are more driven to avoid loss than to see gain. An interesting example from the US, a study in supermarkets across America. The research objective was to find out whether penalties or bonuses work better for reducing the use of plastic bags. For 16,000 shoppers, research shows that providing a 5-cent bonus for non-using a plastic bag had no impact at all, while imposing a 5-cent penalty for using one reduced usage of plastic bags by 40 to 82% in the different supermarkets. So, losses tend to be weighted more heavily than gains of equal value. In fact, losses are weighted about twice as heavily as gains of the exact same value. The cognitive distortion referred to as loss aversion is one of the greatest contributions of psychology to behavioral economics. The concept is not new, yet its implications are surprisingly profound. So, how do we use loss aversion to change behavior and incite action? The strategy is twofold. 1. Make people feel there is nothing to fear if they do take the action we want them to take. Remember social proof. 2. Make people there is something to fear if they don't take the action. Here comes scarcity, which we discussed in lecture 4, and loss aversion, which we are discussing right now. We all have experienced how savvy retailers are using the principle of loss aversion to get us return our shopping trolleys. How do they do that? They make us put in a coin deposit. We are driven to get our money back, so we return the shopping trolley. The retailers are using fear of loss to drive behavior. Loss aversion plays a particularly significant role in pricing and promotion, and even affects product development. Now, let's look at some of the most popular digital marketing methods that use loss aversion. Discounts, coupons and rewards, free trials and product samples, pre-ordering options for new products, exclusive mailing lists for specific products and services, fear of missing out offers, communicating urgency or scarcity, both actual or implied, following up on customers with incomplete shopping carts or orders. Once you know about loss aversion, you start to see it everywhere. If you are in marketing for any length of time, you will eventually have someone tell you to throw in some loss aversion or add a countdown timer, build some urgency. But effective use of loss aversion comes with a warning. Have you ever added salt to a slice of pineapple? If you haven't, I strongly recommend you try it. A tiny pinch of salt has a way of bringing out the sweetness in the fruit, and the result is incredible. But if you add too much salt, you're just eating a salty pineapple. Loss aversion should be used like salt on a pineapple. A pinch of loss aversion can make your offer that much sweeter. A bucket of it leaves people with a funny taste in their mouths. When used the right way and sparingly, loss aversion can be a great tool for conversion rate optimization. We will look into a few ways you can get the conversion benefits of loss aversion without hurting your brand. Loss aversion works in digital marketing because it builds tension. The tension between what people have and what they want to have. Research shows that even imagining making a choice creates an attachment to that choice. Loss aversion works when you manage to present your message as if your consumers are faced with two possible futures: their current life and the ideal scenario you have painted for them. So, the formula is: sell benefits hard, then push for a decision. That is a fantastic example from Sumo. It's an abandoned cart email, the best time for loss aversion. Can you feel the pain? Sumo makes it crystal clear what you're missing by not signing up for their service. A massive email list, a marketing channel I can control, my content spreading like wildfire, engaged visitors. That is what great loss aversion marketing looks like. It's built into the foundation of this email copy. It goes way beyond telling you not to miss out and makes you crave the benefits of the product. Use loss aversion without too much urgency. If you have a really limited stock, say so. Your messaging doesn't need to be over the top. Just tell people that supplies are running low and you don't know when you'll have more. A couple of years ago, Seth Godin created a limited run coffee table book containing all of his blog posts. The book was over 800 pages long and costs $400. Godin was very clear that this was a project that he would only complete once. Because the book was a limited run and highly exclusive, he was able to activate a feeling of loss aversion and use the scarcity principle to his advantage. Creating that feeling increased sales and word of mouth for his book without reflecting poorly on his brand. So, let's sum up. Losses tend to be weighted more heavily than gains of equal value. Some of the most popular digital marketing methods that use loss aversion are discounts, coupons and rewards, free trials and product samples, pre-ordering options for new products, exclusive mailing lists for specific products and services, fear of missing out offers, communicating urgency or scarcity, both actual or implied, following up on customers with incomplete shopping carts or orders. Remember, loss aversion is powerful. Loss aversion can help you increase conversion rates and brand engagement if you use it strategically. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture. Why do you need a model? You can discover more than 200 biases listed on Wikipedia. How do you pick the right ones to build your digital marketing solution that effectively changes behavior and drives the results that you're aiming at? We need a simple framework, a conceptual hook where we can place all our ideas, sort them out, and select the right ones that will make people act. A really simple model. There is a really simple model to make people act, introduced by Bree Williams, the effort versus reward equation. If effort is greater than reward, behavior simply will not happen. In order to drive behavior, we need to do two things. 1. Reduce effort. If the desired and the easy behavior are not aligned, if they diverge, try to realign them. Part of the tools we've studied help us make things easy. 2. Maximize the reward or increase motivation of people to act. Change the context so that your proposition seems better than the alternatives. The other part of the tools we've studied belong here. So let's see how we can make things easy. Which tools help us reduce the perceived difficulty or effort to do something? Social proof. The science is telling us that instead of relying on our own ability to persuade others, we can point to what many others are already doing, especially many similar others, thus making the desired behavior easy. See Lecture 3 and choose which one of the 5 types of social proof is most appropriate for your specific case. Defaults. Default options are preset options that take effect if we don't make an active choice. Set the default options to the path you want users to take. In Lecture 7, we have discussed 6 types of defaults to consider when you design your customer experience. Goldilocks effect. Presenting users with multiple choices with the intention of priming them for the ideal middle option. Easy to implement solution, extremely subtle, and on the whole producing compelling results. Choice architecture. The concept of choice architecture simply implies that the way a choice is presented influences how it is made. Given this, choice options can be designed to influence the way people choose as we would like. See Lecture 9 and choose if limiting choice or adding an extra one, the so-called decoy effect, will be more appropriate for you. Now let's see how we can increase motivation of people to act. Which tools help us maximize the perceived value of the reward? Scarcity. People value things more highly when they believe that they're scarce or rare. Quantity-related or time-related scarcity tools will help you optimize your conversion rates. Visit Lecture 4 for more details. Commitment. People like to be consistent with what they have said or done previously. Consistency is activated by looking for small initial commitments that can be made. Loss aversion. We are more driven to avoid loss than to seek gain. Check out Lecture 10 for some of the most popular digital marketing methods that use loss aversion. In order to effectively influence action, remember to work with both sides of the equation. Please don't forget to check out the step-by-step implementation guide for this lecture. Thanks for having you on board, and may the clicks be with you.